Welcome to your Neighbourhood Unitarian Universalist congregation. My name is Suzanne Mazars. I'm the music director here, and I'll be sharing with you our weekly announcements. Today, as you could tell by our opening prelude, we are celebrating International Women's Day, which just passed us on Wednesday the 8th, as well as celebrating some other things. So for announcements, Spirit Choir continues. We're starting a new round next Monday. If you're interested in singing with the choir, talk to me. Maybe I'll see you tomorrow at rehearsal. In our art gallery, which includes these photos behind us, as well as in our gallery upstairs, we have Peter Marmarick's photography show called Images from the Lava Lands. You're welcome to check it out after service or come in anytime during the week. There's an investments information meeting on March 26th. That is 2 Sundays from now, right after service at 12:15. You can join us by Zoom or just stay after service to learn how our investments have performed over the past year. The DMC, which is the Danforth Multi-Faith Commons, that's us, the Danforth Jewish Circle, and East End United. Social Justice Speaker Series is coming up on March 30th. The theme for this session is Sustainable Fashion, Wearing Our Principles. That's from 7 to 8:30 on Zoom. Details will be in our announcements. And we have a benefit concert coming up to support singing Sisters to Sisters, women and children flood victims in Pakistan. That's 3 choirs performing here in our space, Common Thread, our own Spirit Choir, and the Spirit Singers at UFT on April 1st at 3:30 p.m. That is a free event, but donations will be accepted to support that cause. Have you ever considered lay chaplaincy as a pathway towards deepening your UU journey? Do you have an interest or desire for officiating weddings, memorials, baby blessings, or other rites of passage? Join Yvette and Anna, our current lay chaplains, at an upcoming info session on Zoom on March 23rd at 7 p.m. You can contact Yvette for more info or to register. Her email will be in our Monday mail out. Games night at Neighbourhood is happening this Saturday from 6 to 10. All are welcome. If you have a board game you'd like to share, please bring it. Also bring your own choice of beverage and snack. That is hosted by Gail, who I saw is here in the back, and Gord, who's there singing with the basses. Thank you. A special Sunday service is happening next Sunday, March 19th. We will honor and grieve our individual and collective losses from the pandemic declared 3 years ago, I think like this week. It's about 3 years from now. You are invited to bring an item to the service symbolizing your loss to share on an altar of remembrance that we'll set up here in the space. Please also bring and invite anyone you think would benefit from this service. Thinking of healthcare workers or other types of caregivers in particular. There will be an info session next week after service at 12:30 to find out more about Unitarian Universalism and what becoming a member here at Neighbourhood means. All are welcome to attend. You can contact Christina, who's singing there with the sopranos, or Dave Zalakar, to find out more about UUs and being a member here. Do you have an announcement that is related to our community that you would like to share? Know that Sunday morning announcements need to be sent to our office manager, Hala. Her email's office@nuuc.ca by Friday morning to be included in this Sunday morning reading as well as in the Monday mail out. And if you are not receiving our Monday mail out but would like to, write to Hala, office@nuuc.ca to be added to our mailing list. This week's question to the community: how has your spiritual journey helped you confront injustice? There will be an opportunity today in the service to share your reflections on this question, as well as being the topic for our breakout rooms following the service. As I mentioned, next Sunday, our theme will be honoring and grieving our pandemic losses. Our speakers will be the two spiritual chaplains from our local hospital, Michael Garron Hospital, Jordan Kerr and Charmaine Mack. Our service weaver will be Kurt Thompson, and music provided by our own Spirit Band.
Good morning, beautiful humans. And happy belated International Women's Day to all who were called to celebrate on Wednesday. Welcome to our Neighbourhood Unitarian Universalist Congregation service. Thank you for joining us. My name is Debb Bertazzon, and it's such a pleasure to be your service weaver this morning. Thank you for joining us. Let's start our service by creating and then entering sacred space. And to bring us into that threshold moment, I invite you to join me in reading our invocation. Let us cast a circle of a sacred space here. Let us cast a circle of a cherished space here. A space of safety, a place of forgiveness, a place of love. If we want the world to change, we must craft in our space and in ourselves the seeds that grow a different kind of life. A life of graciousness, of creative intelligence, a place of life and spirit for ourselves and our families. And now that our sacred circle has been formed, let's ground ourselves within it. So let's take a deep breath together. Yes, and as we ground, let's connect with our hearts, minds, and spirits of those present both here in the sanctuary and on Zoom. Connect with the energy that mingles together and be present and open to all that will be. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Zariah Getchell. And please join the choir as we sing. Our prelude today is one of my personal favorites, and it's going to be sung by our wonderful Spirit Choir.
Thank you. Our prelude this morning is called In the Hearts of You and Me, written by Indigenous musician Kim Gucci. Kim is from the Lheidli T'enneh Nation, and she wrote the song as a tribute to the murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and two-spirited people. It's talking about the Highway of Tears, which is a 725-kilometer-long highway between Prince George and Prince Rupert, used for work, school, medical appointments, and visits. And over the past 40 years, at least 50 women that have traveled this highway have disappeared and never been found. Unsolved, missing, and murdered women and girls. So she wrote this song as a tribute to them. She writes these words: "May we never forget our lost and stolen sisters. May their families find justice. May their families find peace. May we never forget the thousands of Indigenous women, girls, and men who are missing and who have been murdered. May their beauty live forever in the hearts of you and me." As you can see, whenever we sing this, We hang a red dress, that's why it's there up behind the choir. And the images you see in the PowerPoint are images of the Highway of Tears and of Prince Rupert. Choir.
She back to bed.
Thank you, Spirit Choir. You know, according to the Native Women's Association of Canada, Aboriginal women represent and maintain cultures rich in knowledge, history, skills, and environmental stewardship. Those close relationships and dependence on land and environment come from their understanding that their life and livelihood is dependent upon the nurturing and care of them. Today, those present in the sanctuary have the privilege to gather in Takaranto, traditionally known as Turtle Island. We are on the traditional land and territories of the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and the Haudenosaunee Nations under Treaty 13 and the Williams Treaty. It's also the home to many other Indigenous nations from across the lands, including the enduring presence of Afro-Indigenous people. So wherever you are joining us from today, let's offer gratitude to all of our First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and all Indigenous people for their teachings about relations, care of Mother Earth, and community. Now allow me to introduce our amazing leadership team for today. Our talented musical director is Suzanne Mazares, and she and our wonderful Spirit Choir will be leading us in music today. Zariah Getchell creatively and playfully facilitates our Sunday Children's program and will be together with, well, I'm going to introduce Sister Mary-Ellen a bit later, and they'll be doing the Time for All Ages. And of course, our much needed, calm, steady tech folks. We have Bruce Line with the assistance of Gordon Thorne, working magic behind the curtain, doing Zoom, web hosting duties, and similarly, we have our very own Reese Roger attending to AV needs in the sanctuary. Thank you to us all. Finally, a special treat, Sister Mary-Ellen Francoeur will be sharing the message of inspiration about responding to the call of nonviolence. She'll share the evolution of her spiritual journey and faith, including her expanding involvement in peace and justice activism. More about Sister Mary-Ellen later. We are open to many beliefs and learn from many traditions. We welcome all people looking for spiritual community. If you're visiting us in person for the first time, we welcome you and invite you to stay after service for coffee time. I see that we have red mugs again. So not a must, but if you are new, feel free to take a red mug and that will signal us that, and you'll probably be swarmed with people welcoming you. Yes, so we invite you to stay after for coffee time. Our services can vary from week to week, so we encourage you to sample as many as you can to get a better feel for who we are. A great start to understanding who we are is to know about our mission at Neighbourhood, which is to empower spiritual growth and shared action for the care of the world. Our theme for March is grief, healing the wounds of loss. And finally, this week we also celebrate International Women's Day, which is annually celebrated on March 9th. That was a test, and you all passed. Eight. Rise up. While I think it's important to celebrate with gratitude and respect the victories of our trailblazing sisters, I also think that it's important to acknowledge the pain and loss and past wounds from their experiences, and that of those still fighting for women's rights today. When I was preparing for this service, my head was spinning. Where do I start? How do grief and healing wounds of loss, women's rights and IWD, and responding to the call for nonviolence how do they blend? How do they tie together? And I have to tell you, I have written this introduction several times. So now I've decided not to share the history of IWD, women's rights movements, or feminist movements, nor am I going to educate you on this year's theme about gender equity versus equality, but you can ask me about that later if you'd like. Instead, I'm going to share a little bit about my week with you. On Wednesday, I posted a couple of IWD-related messages on social media. One of them was in appreciation of Hershey's Canada for including Faye Johnstone in, and she's a queer, trans, and feminist activist. They included her as one of the 5 women activists they honored this year in the IWD campaign. So here you can see a picture of her holding the chocolate bar with the face on the wrapper. One person responded to my post with a rather angry opinion, which highlighted for me one of the all too familiar divisive debates among feminists. This includes the definition of women and who deserves to be in so-called women's spaces. So part of my response to this person, I think, is relevant to today's themes. And I'm sharing part of my reply not to convince anybody of anything, but to emphasize an alarming dynamic. And so here's what I said, part of what I said. I stand beside my trans feminine sisters and all non-binary folks today and always. Now, I'm not going to read what this person said, but you'll get the gist from what I'm saying. I'm not fond of the often misused term TERF, and for those who don't know, that stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. So I'm not fond of that term, as it gives one of the many feminist streams, radical feminism, a bad name. I call myself a feminist, and yet I worry that that term is too often oversimplified rather than understanding the rich layers of feminist movements and what we have learned from the different waves of feminism. Our goal is about ensuring equitable women's rights. Unfortunately, what becomes problematic is when different sub-movements turn on each other rather than building on victories and learning from our mistakes. For example, while mainstream first and second wave feminism had largely ignored or neglected racial disparities within gender, the third wave paid more attention. Bell Hooks and many others opened the conversation about trans rights during the fourth wave of feminism. It's sad for me to read misinformed comments about my trans sisters, or about any of my sisters for that matter, cis or non-binary. Faye Johnstone, as well as my other trans feminine friends, are brave. They're very brave to wear a dress at risk of being targeted by violence. Please do not make assumptions that they are misogynist. That's really not fair. At the same time, I do also stand beside and support my sexually traumatized sisters. Villainizing all trans women, however, is misdirected and not at all helpful for their healing. Learning more about these women, including their shared trauma experience, is much more useful than spreading and adding to their fear. So that's what I said. And then I thought, hey, call for nonviolence, IWD, women's rights, check, check, check. I'm going to share this on, I got to share this on Sunday. But how do I tie in and connect grieving and loss? Well, many of you know that I have experienced multiple consecutive significant losses over the past year without much of a break. I don't think I've been avoiding grief, but that grief stack just kept building. And like many women, I have been fighting to keep it together so that I can take care of things. On Thursday, though, one of my triggers brought me to a breakdown. I fell apart. Loss and grief are painful. At some point, no matter how strong we are, unexamined pain can bring us, it can break us, and we can't go it alone. At these times, we need to turn to those we trust to hold and help us, not turn on anyone to feel better. No matter how strong and independent we are, it's okay to fall when pain and loss and grief knocks us down. So here's the connection. The universe was reminding me that as feminists, as women, as humans, we need to get better at taking care of each other rather than turning on each other to deal with pain, which just adds to the suffering. Gloria Steinem once said, "The story of women's struggle for equality belongs to no single feminist, nor any one organization, but to the collective efforts of all who care about human rights." And on that note, it is time to greet our neighbors who care about human rights. And let's be exclusive. After we've greeted a few neighbors in the sanctuary, let's turn to the camera and greet those, the camera at the back, those who are joining us virtually.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi,
Good morning.
Beata. Hi, Dee Dee. Hi, Gordon. I thought Doug, how are you?
Hi,
Pretty
Doug.
well. How are you?
Hello, Susan.
I'm here. That's
Good.
it.
Hey, Sigrid.
Hello, Dee Dee.
Yeah.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Julia. Good
Hi,
morning.
Michael.
Good morning, Julia.
Hi,
Hello.
Leslie.
Yeah. Hi, Michael.
Hello,
Hi,
Sigrid.
Peter.
Hello, Julie.
Bruce on Zoom. I love your image there. Did you draw it?
Hello, Beata.
Yeah. Hi, Beata. Hi, Bill and Brenda. You're really dark because
Hello,
of the
Gordon.
open window. Anybody else?
Hi, Bill and Brenda.
Hello, people at the sanctuary.
Good morning to
Good
the
morning, everyone.
Happy
other
International
ones I-
Women's Day.
Yay, women! Hi,
Hi, Joe
Beata.
and Ray.
Hi, Doug. Okay, Doug, I'm gonna also take my Zoom
Hello,
off
Doug.
video so I can hear better. Okay, have a good service. We'll talk to you later.
For that opening. Violence disproportionately affects our trans women, and the first song we're going to share in singing today is called Courage to Be Who We Are. It's in memory of a trans woman named Gwen Araujo who was violently murdered. And so I'd like to teach it to you. We've sung it maybe once before in this congregation, just so we can really have full engagement from everyone to sing this. So I'll teach it to you. There's a picture of her. So I'll sing along. Why don't we rise? We put this in our bodies. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. Let's try that. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. Those who have fallen, those who have fallen, those who have fallen, those who have fallen. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. Here for the courage to be who we are. Here for the courage to be who we are. Courage to be who we are. Courage to be who we are. We are here in the memory of those who have fallen. Those who have fallen. Those who
morning, everyone. I would like to invite all of the young and young at heart up to the front because it's time for our Time for All Ages. Before we start, I want to thank Sister Mary-Ellen Francoeur for joining us today to talk about her own path to nonviolence. Thank you for joining us. And I'd also like to invite you up to the front. You see, Sister Mary-Ellen is a person who practices shibashi, which is a series of 18 exercises that combine movement, breathing, and concentration. And she has graciously agreed to demonstrate a sample of this practice with us for our Time for All Ages today. So I'll ask everyone, if you're willing and able, to rise in body and spirit. And Sister Mary-Ellen, we will follow your lead.
Good morning, everyone. In the spirit of today, these movements of shibashi are actually healing movements and are used in places of healing. Just as to enter into these, just be aware that we're actually surrounded, we're in the midst of life energy, which is healing energy. And it can be flowing, and hopefully it always is, flowing through our whole beings. But there can be things that block that energy from really flowing well. So these movements will help us to allow that energy to flow through us and out. They also are very based in creation, in the earth. And so we're in the movements always entering into a oneness with the earth. So I'm going to invite you, first of all, just to be aware of standing in a relaxed but a really grounded position. And we'll start by, I only have one arm here, but both of your arms just flowing up, breathing in, drawing in all the energy of the cosmos, of the universe. And we greet that energy and invite it to flow through our beings, through our whole body. And then it flows out to heal the earth. We then allow that energy to just lift our arms up. So we're not doing it. The energy is just lifting up our arms. We turn our palms out. And then through our hands, sense the energies around us. Could be from each other, from anything that's living other than ourselves, creation. Just be aware of all of creation's energy, becoming then one with our energy. And we let our arms float down. And then a second time, we allow our arms just to be lifted up to shoulder height, placing our palms outwards. And now with that energy within, we can send out healing energy to wherever we sense it's most needed. And we let our arms float down. We're then going to lift our arms up, palms facing each other to shoulder height. And we draw in towards the center of our being all the energy of the cosmos. And then we open our arms wide. Imagine that we're on a mountain or a very high hill, and we're looking out at all of creation. And we give that creation a big hug, a big embrace. Our arms float down. And we do that once again, our arms coming up, drawing in the energy of the cosmos, opening our arms wide, opening our hearts to all of creation, and then giving that creation a big hug. and our arms float down. We then bring our arms up, palms facing, right above our heads. And starting with our left arm, we let it flow downwards, bringing healing energy to the earth. And then we scoop up violence that is done to the earth to bring it into our arms, which are really, imagine it's a rainbow that we're making. Our right arm flows down, bringing healing energy to the earth, and we scoop up any violence that comes through conflict and war, and we bring it up into this circle of the rainbow, the circle of healing. Our left arm floats down, bringing healing to the earth, and we scoop up energy, or scoop up rather violence towards all that is vulnerable. Bring it into the rainbow of healing. And our right arm floats down finally, scooping up any violence that's even being imagined at this moment into the rainbow of healing. And we allow our arms to float down. And we can imagine that we're, God, blank here, a windmill. And our arms are the blades that are going to turn, but we're holding in our hands Mother Earth. And from our hands, we're sending healing energy into the earth. So starting by going to our left, we start revolving our arms like the arms of the windmill, coming around, going around a second time, always holding the earth, sending healing into it. And then we go towards our right and do this again. We do that a second time. And our arms come to rest. And we can go back to that initial movement, which is to open our arms again to all the energy of the cosmos, to greet it, and now to greet it also with gratitude. And we invite it to flow through our whole beings and out then to heal the earth. And we'll end by just starting with our left foot to take a step or two as we can forward, bringing peace to the rest of this day and the rest of our lives. And we can use our hands and all the healing energy within us to send out peace to everywhere that it's needed. Thank you. I hope the children enjoyed that too. Oh,
Thank you so much for that, Sister Mary-Ellen. So we're going to do that question to the community that was posted earlier. And what I'll do is take a couple of responses. Actually, I should get my mask. A couple of responses for those from those in the sanctuary. And then if there are, we can take a couple of responses from Zoomers. And if you're a Zoomer and you'd like to share in this and participate, please raise your virtual hand. So, a reminder of the question: how has your spiritual journey helped you to confront injustices in the world?
I think the spiritual journey that I'm on is connects to community, and it's much easier to confront injustice when when I'm supported by other friends who are doing the same thing. So if that means going to a demonstration, all of us, or representing neighborhood, that's how that supported me.
Thank you.
For me, the personal journey was, I didn't realize it was an injustice. I just felt in my gut it was wrong. And being in this space did help me realize, oh, that's totally wrong. I can't put up with that. And the backing to say, it's okay to say what you're doing is wrong, and knowing that you have support of other people behind you in that.
Thank you.
I'm a work in progress when it comes to this, when it comes to the confronting of injustice. But the thing that I've learned the most through my spiritual journey is that I don't exist in this planet by myself, and that I'm surrounded by other people, and therefore, those same loving and, kind vibrations that I want to experience myself should be experienced by others as well. And if that's confronting injustice, then I think I'm heading in the right direction.
Thank you. And I'll take one more from the sanctuary.
But joining this community and even coming here has been a great spiritual journey for me. So every time that I come here, you guys make me feel very, very good. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody on Zoom that would like to comment or answer this question?
Yep. Deb, we have Peter who has a question. Go ahead, Peter.
Actually, I have an answer. I would say that for me, the challenge on the spiritual journey is not becoming hopeless. In confronting injustice is not becoming hopeless, because as I look around, there's a lot of injustice out there. And the spiritual teaching that has strengthened me is one from the Talmud, where it says, you may not complete the task, but neither are you free to abandon it. So I don't feel I have to complete the task of defeating injustice. I just need to help with my sisters and brothers to take a few more steps towards that.
Now it's time for meditation. When coping with painful grief and loss, I'm learning that it's difficult, but it's important to try not to listen to that part of the brain that feeds us stories to try to figure out that loss. It's important to leave some space, breathe, feel, repeat. Try not to force anything. Try to lean into your feelings, but also try to avoid succumbing to that need to fill the void. So I invite you to prepare yourself for some time of silence. Close your eyes if that's comfortable. Bringing your body into a comfortable position, whatever position helps you ground. Breathe, feel, repeat. And when you get distracted, gently, without judgment, go back again. Breathe, feel, repeat. You'll gently be brought back by the sounds of our spirit choir singing a South African lullaby. Gently bring yourselves back to the room. When you're ready. Well, now it's my great pleasure to introduce Sister Mary-Ellen Francoeur, who has been a sister of service for 47 years. She has a background in psychology and in spirituality, embracing peace, nonviolence, justice, and oneness for the earth. Her journey of growth and activism has taken her to Northern Canada, Israel and Palestine, Japan, Africa, and virtually around the world. Some of you may also recognize her from her performances as a member of Common Threads. Please join me in welcoming Sister Mary-Ellen.
Well, good morning again, everyone. It really is an honor to be with you today, and I feel like we're kindred spirits. Yes, okay, I just need to get used to. Is this good?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So as Deb mentioned, I've been a Catholic nun, a sister of service for 47 years, which means I'm ancient. A great deal of change has occurred over the years in the Catholic Church and in the lives of religious like myself. And I see myself as a pilgrim. This is my definite image. Probably traveling on the edge of orthodoxy, gratefully with a number of companions. I was brought up in a deeply spiritual Catholic family, nurtured there by a personal relationship with a loving God. My dad, a teacher, specialized in religious education and was always ahead of his time in his way of relating to God and to spirituality. This very much influenced me. In my early years, an intimate relationship with God was my focus. A challenging experience entered my life when I was in my early 20s. I can't remember how I found myself one day with a group of young people in Montreal who had formed a community with a focus on social justice. While washing dishes together, the conversation turned to their passion for social justice as extremely important in the Catholic Church. I actually reacted to this, stating that for me, prayerfully deepening my personal relationship with God was core to my faith. Working for social justice just did not seem as important. I look back on this and smile. Life would gradually invite me to experience not an either-or, but rather a both-and. With the influence of my father's openness, I kept broadening my horizons. Along the way, I was introduced to the German poet Rainer Maria Rilke. In one of his poems I love, he says, "I live my life in widening circles." It seems to fit with my being drawn to the image of a pilgrim. Today, I know that a maturing, contemplative life of prayer will eventually draw us to a life of service, of solidarity with the vulnerable, seeking justice and peace. My French-Canadian grandfather told us that in his family there had been intermarriage with an Indigenous woman. This always felt very meaningful to me, and I was always intrigued by First Peoples of the world. I was drawn to their spirituality. While I studied to be a psychologist, the spiritual dimension of humanity was strongly compelling for me. In my 30s, I went north to live and work with Indigenous people, first Ojibwe in northwestern Ontario, and then Cree on James Bay. Experiencing their lives and spirituality and listening to their suffering, I saw their brokenness and also their incredible resilience with their spirituality, and for some, their discovery of a meaningful meeting of Christian faith and their traditional spirituality, being a source of healing and strength. I was open there to many of the injustices we now recognize, including the Christian involvement in residential schools. But I am rather embarrassed to say I was not understanding these injustices as part of a whole system of colonialism. That now is very much part of my life and growing in me. I was recognizing violence within their lives, and I started feeling called to join with people of all faiths to work for peace and nonviolence. Moving south to Ottawa, I discovered an interfaith peace organization, Religions for Peace Canada. My years in Ottawa held major historical events. Firstly, the Ottawa process to ban landmines, which took place there in Ottawa, and the unique community house in which I lived decided to host 2 delegates from Croatia, allowing us to feel much closer to the event. Secondly, the passionate efforts to keep Canada out of the war in Iraq. Both of these events involved me in organizing interfaith prayers for peace. Those were also the years of the Harris government in Ontario, and that led to my being part of a weekly protest of faith-based persons at the Human Rights Monument. And that's where I first learned some of the songs we now sing in common thread. Fourthly, 9/11 and the bombing of the Twin Towers, which actually occurred 4 days before the celebration I was planning for my 25th anniversary in religious life. My closest priest friend, who was then living in Washington, D.C., was, of course, unable to come up and take on a role in my celebration. But the celebration did take place with all my interfaith friends and many other friends with whom I ministered on various peace and justice issues. A rabbi and a Muslim friend shared prayers. It was an amazing experience of prayer in a time of violence, shock, and grief. All present described it as very much needed experience of healing. There were other powerful experiences during my Ottawa years. I felt called to spend some time in Africa to learn more about this world. This calling was strengthened by a Catholic nun from Rwanda who came to live in the community house I shared. This was 6 years after the genocide. With her friendship and encouragement, I amazed myself by heading off to Rwanda to offer healing to a deeply traumatized people. This was only possible by my surrendering myself completely in trust to the Holy Spirit. In that surrender, I entered a very different world, guided by those who were involved in healing. It was an unspeakably deep and transforming experience. 12 years later, I felt called again to Africa, this time on an ecumenical delegation to the Republic of Congo. There we entered into the presence of gender-based violence, mostly towards women, and also unjust mining practices of a Canadian mining company. And it was there that a photo was taken, and I'd ask that to be projected now. And I'll speak to that image later. It speaks so much about my whole pilgrimage. It was another experience in the Congo of surrender and of transformation. A few years later, I felt called to join an interfaith delegation to Israel-Palestine to meet with both Israeli and Palestinian peace organizations. Realizing that so many peace organizations existed among the two peoples, with a commitment to nonviolence, made a huge impression on me. The fact that the conflict and injustice there continues to affect so many lives is a source of great pain for me. A year later, I was called by my Religions for Peace co-members to represent them at a World Assembly in Kyoto, Japan. There, I was able to visit the sites of the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. This was one of the most powerful experiences of my life, probably the strongest impetus for me to work for nonviolence. Nuclear weapons, for me, are the most immoral creation of humanity. And it continues to sicken me that nations are still committed to not only retain them, but continue to modernize them, to improve their capacity to destroy human existence on Earth. There's another experience in Ottawa I must share, which added a whole other dimension to my call to nonviolence, which has actually brought everything together for me. I was introduced to the work of Thomas Berry, a passionist priest geologian, as he calls himself, who, like Jesuit priest paleontologist Teilhard de Chardin, was a prophet in opening us to the story of the evolutionary unfolding of the universe. Both these men experienced the divine presence in every moment and part of creation, so that all is holy. Thomas Berry saw this evolutionary process as having a purpose and a direction towards eventual union of all in God's love. So the evolution's origin is in God's love, and it is journeying back there. He did see that the long journey holds chaos, struggle, and violence. Nevertheless, he recognized a principle of communion at the core of all of creation, an interconnectedness which draws all together. This spirituality has become the foundation of my life and work. Since all is holy, how can we do harm or violate this sacredness? There can be no possible reason for doing so. The presence of empire and dominance, climate crisis, violent conflicts and wars, all expressions of cruel injustice, for me, are expressions of a violation of the sacredness of God's creation. I follow Thomas Berry's call to rediscover that sacredness. The principle of communion and the purpose and direction of evolution towards love give me hope in the midst of our suffering world. But it depends on our participation and co-creation with God of a new future. So I live now as a nonviolent activist, grounded in God's love. So going back to the photograph, it has become for me an icon. It shows for me women in solidarity for justice and peace. And I can add for sure all men who join with women in solidarity. The vulnerable empowered to resist violence for the sake of the children and the land. Red earth stained by blood, still capable of growing life. And I wish to end today with a return to the full poem of Rainer Maria Rilke. And I ask that that slide be put on the screen so we can actually say it all together. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I will give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know, am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary-Ellen. Now is the time for our offertory. This congregation is a living entity, and like all living things, it must have nurture and sustenance. While volunteer efforts are very much appreciated and essential, who's kidding who? We also really need financial gifts to keep us running. If you contribute financially by pre-authorized withdrawals, predated checks, through baskets, or through the online donation link that you will see on the screen, we thank you. And as we give to the life of this community, we can affirm our lives within it and receive so much in return. We'll now pause and listen to the Spirit Choir as they sing, "You're My Sister."
I'm gonna say your name, you're my sister. I'm gonna break the shame, you're my sister. Not gonna take the lie, raise your story high. I'm gonna say your name, you're my sister. I'm gonna clear Gonna let you have your say, you're my sister. The doors are swinging wide, room for all inside. I'm gonna clear the way, you're my sister. We're on that forward track, never going back. I'm gonna sing this song for my sister, my sister. Gonna stand up and be strong for my sister, my sister. We don't have the choice, so I'm gonna raise my voice. I'm gonna sing this song for my sister. We're on that forward track, never going back, never going back. I'm gonna say your name, you're my sister. I'm gonna say your name. I'm gonna break the shame, you're my sister. I'm gonna break the shame, not gonna take the lie. Raise the story high. I'm gonna say your name, you're my sister. We're on that forward track, never going. We're on that forward track, never going back, never going, never going back, 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 never going back.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Spirit Choir. If you've found love and acceptance here, if you've found home here, if you've known kindred spirits here, let this offering be a token of our gratitude for our common life as we build the common good.
Closing song together. This is I'm Gonna Lift My Sister Up, written by Faya Touré, the first black judge in female judge in Alabama. I'm not sure everyone knows that, so I'll teach it to you so we can sing together. It's a simple tune. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. We don't have to repeat it, you can just listen to me actually. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. The song points to the interconnectedness of all of us and that we need each other to survive. Let's do it together. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my sister up, she is not heavy. If I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, if I don't lift her up, I will fall down. My brother, I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy. I'm gonna lift my brother up, he is not heavy.
Yes, indeed. So I invite you to sing with our choir as Zariah extinguishes our chalice. And as is our tradition here at Neighborhood, while I give the final blessing, let's connect by either joining hands or linking arms or touching elbows, whatever feels comfortable and consensual. If you have a free hand, you can always do hand on heart. And then after the blessing, turn to our friends on Zoom, put your hands together and say namaste, which means, of course, I salute the spirit within you. In the words of Stephanie Bennett Henry, life is tough, my darling, but so are you. And today, I leave you with this final blessing to all women, cis and non-binary, and those who support us. May we always remember that there is no shame in falling down, and even in breaking as we grieve our losses. There is strength and courage in vulnerability and surrender. Together, we will rise up again. And with that, our service is ended. Go in peace.